Good morning, everybody. We're going to get started in about 2 minutes or so, just letting everybody come on. Hopefully we have more than 100 today. Let's see if it works. And as we're getting started or going to be getting started soon, just letting you all know that this is recorded. So we will be posting this and sending this out to everybody. If you missed something, don't worry, it's being recorded.
Jennifer, I've got a few texts that are telling me that they can't get on.
I did ask, and we are confirmed for 1,000 participants to get on, so ask them to keep trying.
Thank you.
Kim, the wrong link was posted on social media in a couple of spots. So if people went through that instead of the email, that could be the problem.
Okay, thank you.
Good to know. Thank you, Carol. We will get that fixed. All right, Kim, we're going to get started in just about 30 seconds. I just want to make sure we're getting past that 100 mark to make sure that it works. And then we'll get started. All right, we're going to get started. We have just hit 100. I'm hoping that we get past this 100 mark. And we have a half hour to go over our shift mastermind for the New England region. Thank you guys for joining us again today. Today is tactic number 2. My name is Jen Bovey. I am working with the New England region to set up the shift with you. Any feedback you have, we are taking that. So we just heard that the link posted somewhere was not the correct one. Let us know so we could correct that and make sure that you guys have the most accurate information. I don't see it getting past 100, so they might have lied to me, yet we're going to continue to work on that. Again, this is being recorded, so you don't have to worry about taking notes. We will record it so you could listen to it again. Today is tactic 2. We are going over with Kim Albertelli as our instructor. Did I say your last name right?
Albertelli, close.
Albertelli, all right. She's going to introduce herself in a minute. We are going over remargin your business expense management. You've heard this a lot in the last week or so, that cutting your expenses is such a big deal right now. So Kim is going to be talking to us about tactic 2. And Kim, take it away.
Aren't you sweet? Thank you. So they threw me under the bus and said, you're going to do this. So I said, okay, great. So I hope you've all read this, and I hope that you all have looked at the PowerPoints and all the other things. And I have that Jen, if you want me to share that. The great part of this is it makes you look at all the easy ways that we succeed when the market rocks. and it makes you really check in with the things that you're spending that you wouldn't have spent if times weren't so good and you thought you were so excellent at what you did. And maybe the market was what was so excellent, and maybe you're fantastic and it's time to trim the budget a little bit. So I'm just going to pull this up and see if this works for us. Can you all see that? Great. So you can see that the goal really is to really cut it. Just cut it. Cut the fat. You've really got to think about the things that are giving you 10 times, 5 times what you're spending on it. So maybe it's your mailing. Maybe it's your, that subscription that you went to KW, an event, and you thought, oh, that's going to be great. And it's $2,000 a month. And that seems so easy when you were closing lots and lots of deals every month. And maybe that's the thing you need to look at and really pull that out. That's what we've had to do. By the way, my coach is going to go through all of my personal expenses and my business expenses tomorrow. So it would have been great for me to do this tomorrow on Thursday, but Tactic 2 doesn't come after Tactic 3, so that's okay. One of the things that we've been doing is thinking about the margin. So you're doing your math, you're figuring it out, you're trying to calculate if this doesn't actually pay it back. So maybe you've been spending money on Zillow. Maybe you've been spending money on the million things that we buy. Maybe it's gifts. Maybe it's that kind of thing. You really need to pull that down. I love this quote by Gary, unless it's nailed down, it goes. I'm not quite there yet, but maybe it's time for you to be there. So that's that. Everybody's going to be affected. So the things that you keep in your business, keep the things that you're going to do. It's the same way that we do the same thing that each and every time you're going to do it. It's just like your database. If you're not cutting the things that you're not actually going to use, and you're not keeping the things that you're actually going to use. I'm sorry, cutting what you're not going to use, keeping what you're going to use, the chances are good that you'll be right back in that same space another time. One thing about this particular thing is your business as big as it needs to be? Did you hire extra people because you got so busy? Is there someone that's half-time or part-time that could be better used somewhere else? Not that you're trying to trim their fat, but maybe they're frustrated with something that they're doing. They're not adding enough because you're not busy enough. So let's think about that, maybe the way to go as well. I'm going to skim through this. I know we only have a few minutes, so it goes fast. This is a great little chart that talks about what you guys are. Hopefully we've all done this 65 times and you know what you are and how you're going to do this. We really need you to be the explorer that's going to come back and tell us what we did well and what we didn't do and how we can improve this next time. I want every single one of you to track your income, track your expenses, figure out what's coming in. And I know that's a little dicey because we don't know if things are going to close. I did have a closing last week. I've got another one tomorrow. I've got another one next week. So far, they're all on schedule. So the attorneys are able to do it. The appraisers are still showing up. The title folks are still doing their jobs. So as long as they're still showing up doing their stuff, we need to show up and do our stuff. I think the big thing is to keep communicating. Keep that projection going so that you know what that's going to look like. So if you know that you've got 2 more closings next month, what's that going to look like for you? What's that going to bring in for you? And please, for the love of God, put a third of that away in your tax account immediately. You know what that means, right?
Kim, we're being asked if you could just make it into presentation mode so that way the slides on the left-hand side of the screen go away so they could see more of the screen.
Well, let me see if I can do that. I have never done that. So share with me, how do I do that?
So go up to the slideshow tab in the middle of the top tabs there, slideshow, and then hit play from current. So from current.
Thank you very much for that. There we go. Look at that. You can all see it. Look at that. Thank you. I've learned new things every day.
It still hasn't changed here. So, all right.
It says
if you just go to,
you have to, sorry for jumping in, but you have to enable editing on that yellow bar.
Yes.
Fantastic. So now that little bar is gone. So terrific. I'm sorry, guys, that this is happening.
And I'm sorry, if you could just stop sharing your screen and go back to it, it'll reset it. So, because right now we're seeing a pause screen. Thank you.
Thank you. How's that look?
You just got to go back to sharing your screen.
I did that. Oh, for the goodness sakes.
All right, you could just review it. We don't need to see the screen if you just want to review it, just because we only have so much time. We only have 20
I'm
minutes.
sorry that I goofed this guy. So
okay.
The next thing we're working on is what are you spending on? Which categories are costing you the most? So I'm on slide 15 if any of you are just using it from the university and just working right through it. So take your notes and think about what you were stopping for on your way to somebody's appointment. What was it looking like? How is that acting for you? And why? You really have to get your budget going. We all run a house on a budget. We all run our businesses on a budget, and we got lazy, and maybe now is the time to think through that. This is the same note that we just talked about a few slides ago. What is the best budget to follow? It's the one that you will actually follow. So if you set sights on not spending anything and you know that you have to, it's not going to help you. It's not going to tighten your budget. It's just going to make you frustrated, and then you won't look at your numbers, and you need to look at your numbers. Do your P&L. Make sure that you're looking at that. And guess where we're going to get that? That's the chart of accounts from the MREA. That should be there. By the way, if you're in coaching, that has been updated, and I'm guessing you can download the new version of that. My coach was kind enough to send me the new version. It's slightly tweaked from in the book. We're going to ask you to tally up your monthly and business, personal and business expenses, like we said. You need to take the expenses away from the income and not pretend that it came in and that it's all the gravy. Just keep noting what you're spending and how you're spending it. By the way, if your income is lower than your expenses, or if the margin is tight, two things you got to do right away. Make the cuts and step up. What is it that we talk about every single day, right? The lead gen. If you're not getting enough leads to keep your business bringing in enough of the income, then you're spending more money than you're making, and you're not in business. We're trying hard to keep you in business. Keep that margin going.
Kim, we have a question. Where do we get the new chart of accounts from KW Connect? Or if not, where do we find those?
So KW Connect, I think, has that. My coach sent it to me, so I will have to check that out. It is in the MREA book. It is tweaked, and there was a few allowances made that are bigger and a few things that are cut more. So try KW Connect, and I bet if you look under that chart, you're gonna find it.
I also put a link on for kellerinc.com. That's a resource for all of the Gary Keller books, Shift, MREA, all of them, and they have resources and the chart of accounts, budgeting. Every resource you need is right in kellerinc.com.
That is fantastic. I forget about that. That's a huge thing to keep it bookmarked. Just keep looking there. Take the stock. Try zero-based budgeting. Literally go right back to every expense to zero and see what that looks like. Reallocate your funds to justifiable expenses. If the thing that you are spending the money on is not doing anything for you right away, cut it. I was on a call this morning, and one of the best lead generators in my office is realizing that all of her lead gen is about meeting people out in the world, and she's got to reboot. So no more gatherings, none of that. So it's going to have to be this kind of thing. It's going to have to be something that's free that you can still invite people to, and a lot more focus. Just get rid of it. Start cutting things like snail mail, office space. I know my office is sitting empty. I'm guessing that a lot of you are also having that same situation. Vendor contracts. So how many things are you actually paying for that you haven't used? Maybe you used it once or twice. Maybe you're not using it anymore. I remember buying KW Video and thinking that was going to be great, and I never used it. So it didn't matter how great it was. Print advertising and office supplies. Are you stocking up? And by the way, we only need a few rolls of toilet paper. Think of 2 areas where you can make cuts today. Think of 3 more. After you do your 2 and you get your basics, keep going, just dig. And I'm guessing that your family has ideas of what you're spending money on that they think you don't need to. And I'm guessing that they have ideas of things that you've said no to that they need, and you can talk through that with them as well. The big 2, payroll and lead gen. So we talked about this very quickly. With payroll, are you paying somebody to do things that you can do now that you're not as busy? Or can you combine positions? Can you offer a bonus rather than a salary increase? So perhaps it's transaction coordination bonus. Maybe there's a deal. Offer some kind of a package that might trim a little bit from the costs. And before you do all that and make this big executive cut, chat with your people and see what they need. Maybe there's something that they need in a benefit that's different than what you're thinking, and it would save you money in a different way. The sad part is it may actually not be possible to keep everyone. Your employees that are the top grade, you've got to let go of the ones who don't do their things every day, all the time. So look at part-time staff, look at new staff members, look at borderline performers. I just have one amazing admin, so that for me, not so much, but I'm guessing that some of the big teams are looking at someone who maybe you can keep them going because everyone has 25 showings a week and it's easy to drag them along, and perhaps not so much when there's no showings to have. Maybe this is not their thing. In a shifting market, your lead gen should be focused on prospecting and enhanced by the marketing. So the prospecting is the METs, the lead generate, the FSBOs and expireds, right? We know that we got to go back to calling them. They already put their hands up and said, please help hold more open houses. And right now we are not able to hold a lot of open houses. So the conversation can be perhaps video them, host it yourself and be virtual in that. And the megas need to go back in and personally engage. Let your staff know and let your clients know that you are still part of the business and that this is important and that you are still the front person connecting.
Can we open this up for some questions? I know you probably didn't go over the whole slides and content. I promised everybody we would send them the slides that you have.
Perfect.
So send those to me, and let's open this up for some questions and suggestions as far as what are you guys, and put it in the chat. What are you guys cutting in your day-to-day expenses currently? I'll start off. I cut out my OnStar account. It was $25 a month. I
Wow.
cut out my iTunes account, that was $9.99 a month, and I cut out my Audible, which was $14.99 a month. I got a lot of subscriptions that I had that I didn't really realize were charging me monthly, or I didn't pay attention to until we started having to make this top of mind. So what are you guys cutting in your day-to-day life, business, to make sure that you are setting yourself up for a shift? Start putting those answers in the chat. And I think my AirPods are dying on me. I also wanted to share with you guys, I don't know how many of you went to Mike Michalowicz Profit First just a couple of weeks ago. He shared a resource on his website. If you don't follow him, follow him. He has so many great resources, especially for the right now. So I'm going to share my screen with you, and hopefully you could see this. This is something I'm going to send out to everybody. It is a nice little sheet. Can you guys see that? It's a cash flow, strategic planning, debit management, accounting, and tax sheet for you as far as a resource on to think about what we could or should be changing for some expenses. So I am going to send that out to everybody as well. What else? What else do you guys have here? Let's see. Anything? Julie says, I'm on the fence of cutting my Zillow. She has the number 1 3 towns, but calls aren't coming in. It says, but the calls aren't coming in. Should I cut those and position myself for opportunities to receive calls and leads? So here's my opinion on this. And Kim, you could please chime in. If you guys aren't using the command lead accelerator or ads pay per click through command, it's definitely something I would investigate and look into. Our agents are paying about $1 plus for leads, and they're coming in quite significantly. It's a huge savings from your Zillow payments or what you're paying for Zillow. So if you have not looked into that yet, my first suggestion is to go there and spend a lot less than what you are on Zillow. And yes, I would absolutely consider cutting out Zillow, unless you are a master at your database right now and you're just not getting enough leads, which I doubt that for any of us on this call right now. All right, let's see. Cut eEdge Pro since switching to command. I love that. That's a huge savings right there. I cut my plus leads instead. I'm calling my database. Maria, I love that. She cut her Cox cable bill. That's another one to look into. She never watches TV anyway. Me neither. I only watch Shark Tank. Why am I paying $130 a month, right? And she said, and this was a tough part. She said she had to let her assistant go for temporarily. So many businesses are experiencing that exact thing right now, where they're temporarily laying off their employees until this gets worked out. Here's the thing with that. We have to understand and be compassionate for those people and do whatever we can to help support them during this time as well. But thanks for sharing that. Let's see, I cut a newsletter that wasn't performing for contacts or lead generation, replacing it with a newsletter template in designs in command. I love that. Who is that? That was Andrea St. Germain from Cranston, Rhode Island. Hello, Andrea. Disconnected cable and internet already. How are you on here if you disabled your internet? I don't know if I could separate myself from internet, but that's great. It's a great expense to cut. Let's see, somebody refinanced their car. So these are all ideas for you guys to write down to start thinking, what can you do? Refinanced her car, consolidated debt. I love these, Craig. Cut cable bill and phone. Save $600 a month. That is an amazing example of what we could be doing right now to cut our expenses. Mobile hotspot was said. Cut all expense subscriptions. Car wash. Bark box. Oh, your poor puppy. Jen, you cut down on your Zillow costs and you negotiated your internet bill. Here's another thing. Did you know you can negotiate your bills? You can. Go on. By the way, don't tell Cox I said this, but if you go to Cox and say you're canceling your account, you're most likely going to get a 40% off discount. Just happened to us, just so you guys know. Don't tell them I said it though. All right, what else? Kim, what would you like to add?
So I was just doing that with our cell phones. I have a bunch of teenagers. And so one of them needed a new phone. It was broken and she went in and saved about $50 a month because she's a great negotiator and happens to work in an attorney's office. And between everything that she's learned, that was a great way to just shave that off a little bit. Mm-hmm.
That's great. And I see Ryan, poor Ryan over here. He said daycare is closed, so it's saving him $500 a week. But are you okay? Are you doing okay, Ryan? Just check it in, because I have a 14-month-old at home and it's not easy.
Not easy.
Anybody relate to that right now? I see a couple of head nods. Matt, I saw you nodding. Nodding.
Maddie's nodding. So what's happening, guys, without going to school? How are you keeping kids busy without spending the extra money?
I just saw somebody was calling their gym membership because most gyms are closed right now. So it's having a hard time because it's a contract. You know what? I bet you they're hearing this not just from you, they're hearing it from a bunch of their members. So keep calling them and asking, hey, what kind of support can you provide for us? What support can you provide? I am going to suggest you guys do this with everything. Go through your entire budget and make a phone call. Hey, how can you support us during this time? They need support, but we do as well. Let's see.
I just want to ask everybody, how many people actually have a budget? Home or office?
Oops, raise your hands virtually.
Yes.
A couple of them we could see, some of them we can't. We
Right.
got a good amount right here. I'm proud of these guys.
Yeah.
Trying to keep up with what we have on the right side.
Yeah, Dave Ramsey's a great thing to pay attention to. If you haven't gone through that course, if you haven't read his book, that's a great way to start with cash and pay down the small debts and be free from that. That's a good remembering.
Let's see. If you have anything else you want, I'm reading the side here. James Ramsey for personal and profit first for business. Love that, Ryan. Shannon says, I follow Dave Ramsey as well. Andrea has a budget.
Who is afraid of this? What's the big fear behind this for anybody?
You know, that's a good question. Yeah, I will say personally for our market centers that we're in, business is still running. You know, we have workarounds for all of the shutdowns that are happening. As far as the essentials go, we are the essentials. People have to buy, people have to sell, and we are the connector of that. So there are lots of workarounds for this business right now, regardless of if you're in Connecticut where they're shut down, Mass, they're shut down, Rhode Island, not yet. That's where I am. And but there are a lot of workarounds with what's going on in business. I'd love to hear some wins on this chat. What's going on? Anybody have new listings, pendings? What's going on in business specifically? So we do have a concern about getting out there and getting sick, and that is a concern. So make sure we're being safe. That is the whole key to this, right? If you are going to be practicing real estate in these times and we're adjusting to how we're now doing it, just take extra caution on what we're doing. Sanitize, wash hands, don't touch things. Stay far away, 6 feet from people. Let's see.
One thing that
closings are happening, I see.
Sorry to interrupt you, Jen. One of the things I was thinking about is reach out to your people ahead of time. When you get your buyer, find out which one of your inspectors is still working. If you're talking to sellers, find out which one of your photographers, floor plans, all of the people, find out who is still working and who wants to work, so that when you've got the listing or the buyer, that you know who you can depend on rather than scrambling at the last minute. Keep your people tight.
I think too, Kim, sharing with your office. You know, I know our office, we're posting on our page like so-and-so home inspector's working. So make sure that you're sharing with each other so we all know who is still in business, because just because I know it, if I don't tell anyone else, how will you all know it? So make sure that you're sharing.
I love that.
And that's why we're here doing this mastermind as well, so we could share ideas with you guys. So I appreciate that, Lorna. How are you? So we have a suggestion on here to ask credit cards to reduce interest rates or move them into zero interest cards if possible. That's a great tip right there. Also mentioned to refinance your car, home, everything that you have going on. Read the chats, by the way, guys. There's a lot of things happening. I see someone has 2 closings, starting to do a virtual tour, starting to do virtual tours. These are all really great. We have 2 minutes left. What do you guys want to discuss or want us to go over with you? That is the most important thing for the next 2 minutes.
One thing that we've talked about a few times is the distancing with our clients, that some people do need to sell, and as awkward as it might be, they need to sell. When you need to, you need to, and we need to be prepared to do that for them and to already figure out what your steps will be, what that's going to look like, how you'll be dressing, how you'll be taking care of, how many people are in their house at the same time, how many, can you schedule the floor plans, the photos, all of that stuff in one small amount of time where they're not together, but keeping them so that your seller is not in the house at the same time. And then can they stay away? Do they have a second home? Are they able to stay with family so that the house doesn't continue to be contaminated from every single person that comes through the door? We don't have control over that.
Good. All right, guys. Well, we're just finishing up here. Thank you for a great second day. Tactic 2 is done. Tomorrow we'll be bringing Tactic 3, and Brad Knowles will be back to be teaching Tactic 3 with us. And look, let's see, do more with less. Tomorrow is going to be about do more with less leverage. So let's talk about that tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day today, and we will see you virtually soon. Bye, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.